It's a bird.
It's a plane!
It's the Glute Guys. Welcome to the Glute Guys Network. I'm Dr. Aaron.
And I'm Dr. Tom, and we're back again to bring you some latest health news and give you our analysis as physical therapists.
Today, we're looking into how many cups of Joe is a no-go.
And I got a feeling that my consumption is going to be the no-go.
We'll find out. So the study that we looked into today is called Moderate Coffee and Caffeine Consumption is associated with a lower risk of developing multiple cardiometabolic diseases. So, basically, the study looked into consumption of caffeine, coffee, tea. Mm-hmm. In the past, there's been a lot of epidemiological studies that looked into the morbidity of the cardiometabolic diseases and caffeine consumption. But this study in particular looked into development of cardiometabolic diseases.
Mm-hmm. In both the preventative and with depending on the amount of consumption, if people developed them later, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so cardiometabolic diseases, if it sounds a little confusing, could be a lot of different things, like having a stroke. It could be heart failure or a heart attack.
Mm-hmm. It could be coronary heart diseases, where you start to have some more of like the closing up of some of the arteries, mm-hmm. blood flow restrictions and stuff like that as well. Diabetes-related issues as well, too.
Yeah, so cardio meaning the heart, metabolic meaning like how your body breaks things down and processes energy. Mm-hmm. So this study actually found that if you have moderate coffee consumption, that you have a decreased risk of cardiometabolic diseases.
Yes, and it started to look into the numbers, exactly how much is considered moderate, which they deemed about 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine. Now, to kind of give you some insight into that, your average cup of coffee typically ranges anywhere from 95 to 100 milligrams of caffeine. So upwards of 3 would be considered moderate.
I found that so surprising.
I honestly thought it was less in coffee, to be honest with you. Originally, I thought it was 50, but...
And what was it, 75?
What, for in
coffee?
One cup? No, it's 95 to 100. In one, like, regular cup of coffee.
Yeah, so shout out to the Revis clan, my wife's family. They have their morning coffee and they have their afternoon coffee. And I was always like, that sounds like too much coffee. But that might just be the perfect amount of coffee.
They're moderate coffee users. Unlike the Irwin clan, my family, my dad will make a pot in the morning just for him throughout the day.
Nice.
And me being his son, decided that, you know what, I have to do that too sometimes.
Yeah. So, I mean, my family is pretty much the opposite. Like, we don't really have any. I think my mom has maybe a cup or two, sometimes a little more. Mm-hmm. She always tries to stop drinking coffee, but never actually is successful.
Well, it's really hard because caffeine is also addictive, which is why you kind of have to watch out for stuff like that too, because if you stop caffeine, you get headaches and everything like that as well.
Yeah, my dad and I don't drink coffee. My brother, he drinks coffee, I think, sometimes. He definitely has some caffeine.
I'm always jealous of you guys, the people who just don't need coffee to get throughout the day.
Well, to me, it's like you said, like, coffee is addicting. Mm-hmm. If you don't have it, you literally go through withdrawal.
Yeah.
Which makes me question a study like this. Like, is it possible that there's bias and they were looking for certain things? One of the things they said is they had to exclude a lot of people who didn't really have or were ambiguous with their information, or like there wasn't clear information on it.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, how do we know that the other people were actually clear? Or how do we know that it wasn't like, oh, yeah, I don't drink that much coffee.
I mean, it's like
really drink more.
If they're filling out a survey, they're just like, oh, yeah, you know what? I really only have like 3 cups of coffee a day.
Yeah, so we definitely would have to be worried about some bias on these studies.
Of course.
That being said, there is a very large sample size. So they actually looked at, this was in the UK, they did a longitudinal dietary study with over 500,000 participants. They ended up taking a bunch out if they weren't sure about the caffeine, and they had 172,000 people. So that is a pretty good amount of people.
Yeah. But again, you just have to be careful if there was any kind of bias towards any of this as well.
Yeah, like we know just from school research, looking into stuff like that, that a longitudinal study is not the most accurate all the time. No. There's a lot of bias that's possible with it.
Yeah, because the factors aren't staying the same. The variables, rather, are not staying the same consistently throughout time like you hope they would, versus more of a controlled like case study where you can, like, you know, for even though it's a short period of time, the variables are going to stay consistent inside the study, while a longitudinal one kind of just hoping that the clientele or the participants rather are being honest with their answers.
Yeah. So a longitudinal study is just one that observes stuff happening over a long period of time. I guess that's exactly what you just said.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for confirming.
Yeah.
The one other thing that I didn't really necessarily see in this study is they're talking about, like they said, like tea and coffee and things like that, but there's a big spike nowadays with energy drinks and pre-workout in the fitness realm. And you start to wonder, like, well, hang on, wait a minute. If 200 to 300 milligrams per day is about the moderate consumption, I know plenty of pre-workouts that I may have used to use.
You would never.
No, never. I wouldn't touch those.
Sorry, let me cut you off real quick. What's your worst pre-workout story?
In what sense? Because
have you not ever had a bad?
No, I've had plenty.
Bad reaction to pre-workout.
I dry scooped a pre-workout brand that I just won't name, and my pupils dilated so hard that I couldn't see in the gym. Like literally, all I saw was just like through peepholes. I'm not gonna lie to you though, bad experience on the vision side of it. Great lift. I've been chasing that lift for the rest of my life.
So my brother used to have this pre-workout. I don't know where he got it, and I don't even know the name of it.
That's the best story.
I don't know if it even exists anymore.
I know where he got it. He got it in the back of the old classic supplement stores that they're not supposed to be selling it.
And my brother, like, he says to me, like, this stuff is pretty intense. You don't want to take a lot because it's like tough to handle.
It's probably like God of War or something like that.
They're
not around anymore, so we can talk about it.
But so my brother, I had it, and I asked me, my buddy Gary, my buddy Dan, and we're like, oh, let's all try it together and we'll go do a workout.
Oh my God.
So we all take like half a scoop, not even a full scoop.
Yeah.
And remember too, I don't drink any caffeine. So it being like a lead balloon.
Yeah.
All three of us
throbbing.
No, all three of us just had cold sweats and were shaking for like 5 hours. And the worst part is we felt so bad we didn't go to the gym. So we didn't.
Oh man, the worst is if you don't do that and you have the beta alanine inside of there and you get like the ant feeling all over your body.
Yeah, so we had that too.
Oh God.
So it was basically.
That made me sick the first time.
Yeah, I feel like we were just having like minor heart attacks.
You pretty much were. It probably had. Yeah. Oh, that was another one. I forget what brand it was, but I had heart palpitations. Had to stop drinking caffeine. In that pre-workout brand's defense, I also had 2 monsters earlier that evening because I was up all night studying.
Yeah,
for finals.
I mean, I felt like I was going to die that day.
Yeah, no. But anyway, back to what I was saying is just with the pre-workouts on the market, with the energy drinks and stuff on the market, like that's what most kids are consuming. And I know that the average age range for the study started at about like 37 to 73, but I wonder with these younger kids drinking a lot of caffeine, if we're going to see an uptick in some of these cardiometabolic diseases because they're not really being regulated so much.
Yeah, because there's way higher dosages.
Yeah. And then some of these energy drinks have like 300 milligrams to start.
And the other thing we have to take into account is what's actually in the energy drink that's not caffeine.
Yeah.
Like you said, the beta alanine gets some weird symptoms for you.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't even know what's in a lot of the energy drinks aside from sugar and caffeine.
Sugar, caffeine. I mean, there's like some other like uppers that are essentially in it that's supposed to be for like mental focus, but I'd also like to look into the research on like what can those do to like the heart and stuff like that, because I know plenty of guys who abused Monster for like years, and I'd like to see what it kind of thing's going to look like in the future for like the energy drink group.
Yeah, I mean, I don't drink Monster because I'm a good person.
Dang. Well, I guess we're never going to get sponsored by Monster.
There's nothing wrong with Monster. It's fine. I just don't like it.
We wanted Red Bull.
When I was a kid, I went to the beach once with the family, and they were giving away free Monster. And I was like, "Ooh, cool! It's like a green drink, and it says Monster. Like, I'm gonna love this thing." And I took like one sip, and I was like, "Oh, I don't like this at all. This is terrible." And then that's one of the last times I ever had Monster.
Well, you found out you didn't like it,
Yeah, that was that.
That was it. One and done kind of deal.
Yeah, but I think we could get just from this article in general that there is potential that like caffeine is actually good to have, but we have to think about a lot of different things. There could be some bias in this study. There could be there is addiction associated with caffeine. It's a drug. Your body develops a tolerance or a dependence on it.
It also does develop a tolerance. I know you're about to say that too, but you do build a tolerance to caffeine as well.
Yeah. I guess I was thinking more negative. Like, I don't know if having a tolerance to it is necessarily a good or a bad thing.
It could be bad because if you start to think about it, if 200 to 300 milligrams per day is exactly what the moderate level is, if 200 to 300 milligrams isn't cutting it for your levels anymore, you're going to up yourself to 3, 4, 4, 5.
Yeah, so it's going to keep going more, and then the more you have, the more likely you are to have.
Then you run into the problem that I had, where it's just like you have to have 500 milligrams in a day, and even just stay up and do your notes. But you know what? They get done.
Yeah, so
it's not healthy, but it's okay.
I do think we could take out of it that it's okay to have some throughout the day.
Exactly. It kind of goes hand in hand with like everything that we think about when it comes to dietary things. It's like it's all right in moderation as long as you're doing it the right amount of way. And this one actually potentially has some benefits to lessen the chance of some of these diseases that we see as well. So, but I agree with you. I'd like to see some other research come out that aren't more so longitudinal, if we can figure out the effects on it in a more case study base, but it's going to be kind of harder to develop too.
Yeah, even with those studies, I think it would be difficult just because how do you look at developing cardiometabolic diseases in the short term?
Yeah, I feel like it has to be more advanced and kind of figure out the effects more so deeply of caffeine and what it does to just like the heart and the arterioles.
One thing I will say, just with my patient population working in geriatrics or older adults, there were a bunch of times where I would have a patient and I would look at their heart rate and it would be like 115, which is very high. Normal heart rate is 60 to 100. And I'd be like, I don't know what's going on here. And it would turn out like they had a cup of coffee right before I saw them.
Yeah.
And that's pretty bad. Like your resting heart rate being super high, that could lead to other complications like stroke, heart attack. Yeah. Any of those things, really.
It's something you have to watch out for. I mean, the other thing that we also see in the clinic that I get from time to time is, even as like physical therapists, I'm not wearing a white coat, but I get patients who have like white coat syndrome and stuff like that. Where the doctor walks in and it might be their eval and I check their heart rate and it's just...
Yeah, I have one patient, or I don't have her anymore, but I had one patient whose heart or blood pressure would be at like 170 or 180. And she'd be like, I knew it was going to be high. I get nervous every time someone comes in. And it's the same, like any doctor that she goes to. It doesn't matter, male, woman, or anything. It always just shoots through the roof. And then like 10 minutes later, you'll take it again. It'll be like 130.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh.
Just give it time.
Yeah. So she's like a poster child for white coat syndrome.
Put her in the dictionary.
Yeah. I guess maybe that's not a good thing, but it's an interesting factoid.
Raise awareness for it, so this way, like, other doctors don't think she's just having like a heart attack or borderline going to have it.
But I think that's really everything we wanted to talk about with this article. Anything you were thinking of?
No, I mean, we pretty much covered it. Moderate amount of caffeine is actually potentially healthy for you. You don't want to overdo it. Obviously, no caffeine isn't going to really change anything for you, but it doesn't necessarily say like, oh, add caffeine into your everyday diet. It's just, as long as you do a moderate, it might actually benefit you.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I like it.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.